All right, now it is time to do our columns. So let's go ahead and get another cylinder. It's going to be right in the origin of the ground plane, right in the dead center. So let's push it out to where we can see it. And I want it to be sitting on the ground plane, just like the base. Let's hit spacebar and go into side view. And let's just make sure that it's sitting on the ground plane like this. Looks good. Go back into perspective. Okay, so let's start making this look like a column. Let's go over to inputs. I'm going to click the cylinder. Let's set the radius to zero point 0.5, so half. Let's set the height to 10 and the subdivisions to 12. So this is looking like a column. Let's lift it up, put it on the ground plane. Let's check from the front. Is it sitting on the ground plane? There we go. So this part of the column is called the shaft. And I know that sounds inappropriate, but that is actually what it is called. If we take a look, um, these are the parts of a pillar or a column. We have the base, the shaft, and the capital. In this case, we're working on the shaft. Okay. So let's add some details to this. It looks nice right now, but I think we can make this look a little fancier. So let's edit some of the edges and the vertices and the faces. Now, what are the edges, vertices, and faces, or the edge, the face, and the vertex? Well, those three things make up a polygon, and I'm going to show you what they are. I'm going to undo that. Let's put down a cube. I'm going to pull the cube out, and let's take a look at this. Now, if you were to right click on this cube and hold it, you would open up the wheel. Now, this is an editing wheel where you're able to go into object mode. And object mode is just when you have the object and you can push it and rotate it and scale it. I'm going to right click. You have the face, the vertex, and the edge. And those three things make up a polygon. If I was to select face, it would show you that the faces are the flat or curved surfaces of a shape. If we're to right click and select edge, the edge are these blue lines, and this is where two faces meet. So when a face meets this face, or I'm sorry, when this face meets this face, we get an edge. When this face meets this face, we get an edge. If we were to turn it around, when this face and this face meet, we get an edge. We have the edges and the vertices right here. The vertices are the little points where two edges meet. So when an edge meets an edge meets an edge, we get a vertice. So there's going to be a vertice at each point where an edge meets. Now, these are important because each one of these things are something that you can edit. You could actually push and pull and lift. You could change all sorts of things. You can move those vertices around. You could actually edit an edge. If we just grab an edge, we can push that, lift it. If I hit E on my keyboard, I can rotate my edge like so. If I right click for the edit wheel and select faces, I can actually edit the faces. So I could scale this in any direction, push it, pull it. If I wanted to edit a different vertice, this one, push it. You can't really rotate it, vertices, that's one thing. But you can rotate an edge, like so. So edges, faces, and vertices, those are all the three things that make up a polygon, and each one of them you can edit by holding your right mouse button on a polygon, and that will bring up the edit wheel where you can select either edges, faces, or vertices. So I'm going to go to object mode because that means that it's just going to be a solid object that I can move around again. Delete that. Let's go back to our column and let's edit the edges. I'm going to right click, hold, and I'm going to select edge, and I'm going to select every other edge. And you can do that by holding shift each time you select new edge. Hold shift, select. Hold shift, select. So it's going to be every other edge. Turn it around, hold shift, and select. So let's take a look. Looks good. Every edge is selected. I'm going to hit R on my keyboard to scale. I'm going to scale those in. Now, I don't really care to scale on the Y, but I do want to scale on the X and the Z axes. And instead of just grabbing them one by one and doing it, we actually have this awesome ability where we can grab these squares, and you can see there's a square in between each two axes. And that means you can edit the two axes on either side of that square. So if I was to select this one, I'd be editing the Y and the X. If I was to select this one, it'd be the Y and the Z. This one, it is the Z and the X. So I just want to scale the X and the Z. So I'm going to grab that square. I'm going to push that in. Awesome. You can see that it pushed those edges that we selected in, and it's given this kind of cool star shape. I like it. Let's go ahead and right click, hold, go to object mode, and let's edit some of these vertices. I'm going to right click, hold, go to vertex, and I'm going to select all the vertices on top. And let's scale those in. Just so we get kind of this interesting tapered look where it's thicker on the bottom and thinner on top. I'm going to hold, go to object mode. Looks good. So we added some detail to this shaft, this column shaft, and it looks good. Let's name it now. So if you see in the outliner, we have all of our polygons. We have our base 1, base 2. We have the shaft of our column. And the outliner is kind of like the organization of items that you have on scene. Everything that you have on your scene is going to be here within the outliner. It's also going to have your 4 different views and then the default lights that Maya puts into every new scene. So if I click this, we're going to have selected our cylinder, and let's rename it. And I can just do that either by going to the channel box, naming it over here, or I can just double click and name it here. And let's name it column shaft. There we go. So our shaft looks done. But now we need to, let's see if I can drag it on screen. We got to do the base and the capital. So let's do the base right now. Drop this down. Let's bring in another cylinder. It's going to show up in the origin of our scene in the dead center. So let's push this out. And let's bring it over here. And I actually want to make this pretty precise, so let me go to the front view by hitting spacebar and going into front. That looks pretty good. And then let me check in top view. Hey, I did that pretty precise. Okay, looks good. Let's spacebar to exit out of top view, spacebar to go into perspective, R to scale, and let's push this down. I feel like it's a little too much. Let's lift it up a little bit. Cool. I like that. Okay. So let's name this. Let's do it in the outliner. Right now it's just called P cylinder 1. Let's name this column base. And I kind of want a second one to sit on top of this one. So I'm going to do Control D. It's going to be sitting inside of it. So let's pull that out. I'm going to hit R. Let's scale this down. W for move. And let's make sure that this one is sitting directly on top of the one beneath it. So let's hit spacebar and enter into front view. And you can see there's a little bit of a gap right here. So let's push that down. Cool. All right. So now that one's sitting on top of the one beneath it. Let's go back into perspective. Looks good. So now we have our base and our shaft. Now we need to make, let me bring it up, the capital. And let's bring in a new shape. We've been using only cylinders, and I think it's time that we use a new one. So let's bring in a torus. And a torus is a donut shape. So it's going to go right in the middle. Let's pull that out. There we go. That's a real donut-y shape. All right. So with this torus, let's make the capital. I could try to center it like this, but that's kind of a pain. So I'm actually going to go to the front view. I'm going to center it right here. And then I'm going to go to the top view and center it right here. And remember to navigate through views. I'm just hovering and hitting spacebar to exit, hitting spacebar to enter. Let's go to the side view. Let's lift that up. So right about there. Okay, let's go back to perspective. So that's a really big capital. Let's scale it down. R, and scale it down. And now you get a lot of freedom. You can stretch it, you can push it, you can widen it, you can do whatever you want. Just make it look nice. I like that. Okay, so that is our capital. But let's make sure that we name it that. So let's go over to the outliner. Let's make sure the torus is selected. We're going to double click, and I'm going to name this column. I think my caps lock is on. Let's see. It was column capital. Let's hit enter. So we have all the parts of our column, but let's now group them all together because grouping it just makes it easier to duplicate the entire pillar at once. We don't want to duplicate them piece by piece. We want to duplicate the entire column because we're going to need about 8 different columns to put around this base. So I'm going to go ahead and I can do it one of two ways. I can either hold shift, select each part of the column in the outliner, or I can come to the scene here and I can click and drag to select them all like this. All that matters is that they're all selected. I'm going to hit Control G. Control G is grouping. It says items grouped successfully. Now, the one thing about grouping is sometimes your pivot here ends up back in the dead center, and we don't want that because that's kind of wonky. We want to be able to make changes, move and rotate and scale the pivot in the dead center of the column. So I'm going to undo, which is Control Z. And I'm going to make sure that I have my entire column selected. In this case, I only grabbed the shaft. So in order to grab the entire group, I'm just going to hit up on my keyboard like that. The whole thing's now selected. I'm going to go up to Modify, Center Pivot. Watch what happens. Ta-da! Pivot is back in the dead center of the column, which is where we wanted it. Let's name this column, though, this whole entire group. So let's go to the outliner. You can see it just says group 1. Let's double click, name this column. So all the pieces are still here. You can still select them individually within the outliner. It's going to be this little plus sign that's set right next to the column. If we click that, it's going to open up the entire group and it's going to show you all the individual parts. So the hierarchy is you have the group and then you have the individual parts. Let's close that. Okay, now let's go ahead and bring this entire grouped column and let's put it on our base. So I could either do it like this, where I'm just kind of pushing and pulling and trying to guess, or we can do it how we've been doing it and go to the front view. Let's make sure that it's sitting right on top. And then let's go to the top view. That looks pretty good. I'm going to now do Control D to duplicate. I'm going to bring it over here. And this can be A little tedious. All you're going to do is just duplicate and put at each point of the temple step. So Control D, duplicate, move it. Control D to duplicate. Oh, select it from the outliner. Oh, that's not going to work. Let's do it like this. There we go. I think that I have now 2 selected. So let's undo. And now let's do back all the way to where it's just the first one selected. Let's do Control D. There we go. Like so. Control D. So what I did back there was I just undid it a couple times. I had lost my selection of the duplicated column, and instead of trying to find it by clicking around and looking in the outliner, it was just easier to undo a couple of times until it was back to the point before I duplicated, and then just do it again. So I always encourage that if you're lost or confused or you lost your selection, just undo, undo, and do until you're back into a point where you know where to go next. So we have all of our columns set up. I'm going to exit out of top view. I'm going to go back into perspective view. Looks good. We have all of our columns. Okay. This looks good. I want to leave it like this for now. So I'm going to go up to File, and we're going to increment and save. I'm going to click increment and save. And what that did is it just gave us a new save with the columns, and it did not overwrite our previous save where we had made the base. So let's go look at our folder, and you can see it right there. We now have a new save called temple.0003. And that's why we increment and save, because we want to save multiple versions with each step of our work. Awesome. We're going to work on the roof next.